Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today is both a sad day and a thought-provoking day. And so this morning, I went to my morning sobriety meeting, just the 7 a.m., because I had an ex-coworker, a staff member of mine, a young woman who I hired out of college and continues to flourish at this company. And she came to visit me and we sat and talked for like 2 hours. I love it. I love it when she comes to visit me. Um, she's doing so great and I'm so proud of her. And it's just nice to hear her talk to me about work. I love for her to talk to me about work for many reasons. One, it allows me to be able to see how much she's growing at work, and it feels good to watch that progress over time, over years. And the other reason, selfishly, is because the more chaotic I hear about a work environment, I feel happier that I'm not there. I know that's terrible to say. Like, I love this company, but it is still a company, and there's lots of personalities you have to deal with, and lots of um, projects and stuff, and battles and all of that stuff. So it allows me to find some sort of gratitude in my situation when I get to hear that I don't deal with that kind of stress. So that it's a part of my way to selfishly figure out how to find gratitude in my situation. So that happened and that was great. And as we were sitting in the living room, we were looking out the window here and there. Well, Autumn was looking out the window and being such a good girl and not barking as more and more cars kept being parked in front of my house. And I'm like, what is happening out there? And I saw that they were all related to the house where, if you lifetime listeners know that there was an older woman with cancer who I had befriended on voting day, and I helped her vote and all of these things. And then we started to build a relationship, and then it started to be very overwhelming for my own well-being. And so I had to tell her son that it was too much for me and I really needed to focus on my own recovery. And I never got to hear anything from her, or I did see her a couple times after that. She didn't see me, but I kind of saw her, and then I didn't see her anymore. And yes, you guessed it, she passed away. So she started declining a couple months ago, which was probably about a month after I had stopped going to visit with her. And I was accurate in thinking that there was something concerning about the fact that her bedroom light wasn't coming on. And it's not like I'm stalking. It's hard not to look out the window. But whenever I would take the dogs out to use their last potty break, their last potty pass, um, I would notice that her bedroom light was on. And I had, like, when I went over there to visit with her, she had taken me up to her bedroom. She had given me a necklace and all kinds of stuff, which I felt was just too much. But I was aware that I knew like what time she woke up in the morning because it was very similar to my schedule. And when I would go up in the evening to work on my memoir and various crafts and stuff, I noticed that she was also in her bedroom. It's like right across the street from my craft. My studio room is right across the street, diagonally from her bedroom. So and I always have a little crack in the window because of, I don't need to share that. But anyway, there's a reason why I always had the shade a little open. And so I would always, and it wasn't to see her, but I would be able to see that her bedroom light was on. I noticed her bedroom light stopped coming on at least a month ago. And I was like, huh, I had a feeling that she had declined and something was going on. And that's exactly what happened. So my friend needed to leave and they were all parked like behind her car. She couldn't get out. So I had to go out there and say that my friend needed to leave. And they were like, in a little bit or now? And I said, now. And so one of the sons came over to me and told me that his mom had passed away and he was crying. And so I gave him a hug. It made me so sad. But he was like, acknowledged that that I used to walk with her, or visit with her. And I don't know, it was just very sad. And, so I actually, what I did was after I talked to him and my friend left, I actually got on my knees, which I don't ever do this except for before bed. And I actually got on my knees and like bowed my head and like looking out to her window and just had a moment of silence, really. Um, I know that I stopped going over there and visiting with her for my own recovery because it was too much for my head to be going over there and having that kind of interaction. And I wasn't, if I'm being totally honest, which that's what I do here, I also was a bit overwhelmed by her personality. Like she would come downstairs and like spray me with her perfume without asking me, just like start spraying me with her perfume. And that was just too much for me. It was just overwhelming for me. So I don't feel as I was afraid when I came inside that I was going to feel like, actually, did start feeling like you could have just kept visiting her, with her. It would have only even been a few months. But I couldn't actually. Like it was hurting my head. So I think it's automatic for me to feel like I need to that I need to be there for somebody else. But it's important that I prioritize my own well-being. And it's a little battle. And I just wanted to mention it because it's it has a tendency to make somebody feel guilty when you wanted to be there for somebody, but you really couldn't. It wasn't the best situation for you. And sometimes that can be just, it wasn't emotionally good for you. And I was dealing with two things. It was physically triggering my pain in my head. And then emotionally, it was overwhelming. And I was starting to feel like I don't want to do this anymore because she really invades on my own personal space and my own, it's like I felt like she was controlling the relationship, if that makes sense. And it was a lot for me. And I think that that was just the relationship, how their family is, I suppose. So I just wanted to share that I did have this like, should I have, should I have done more? But the truth is I did what I could, and I knew that she was sick. And I even thought that, honestly, I thought that when I went over there and told her son that I really needed to focus on my own physical well-being and wasn't going to be able to go over there, when I was walking back to the house, I got back to the house and I cried because that's when I do when I have to stand up for myself and be assertive. Um, I cry afterwards. I know my daughter does that too. But I was walking back and I was thinking, I, she's going to pass away, and I hope that I don't feel regretful about doing this. So, anyway, that's all I have to share about that. I'm sad that she passed away. I know that she was really in pain and was taking a lot of medication, was really going through all of the insurance stuff that you have to go through and all the stuff that I have dealt with. It's just really challenging. And then she also had a language barrier too. So that was one thing that she liked, to have me over there to talk to her insurance companies and stuff. And that was too much for me also, that I've got my own stuff that I have to deal with. So this morning, before all of that, when I went to my meeting, the meeting was about the common welfare. So it's tradition one of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's about how we prioritize we prioritize our own recovery, but we also need to acknowledge that the individual will not be so successful if if the group does not survive. So the common welfare comes first, as it is a part of it is as individuals, we are a small part of the great whole. And so when I came upstairs and I sat down to hit record, I was like, oh boy, this is kind of like us being there for each other, which is interesting that that's what I was thinking of this morning when I saw that this woman passed away. Because one of the things that I wrote down this morning before I knew that she passed away was how sometimes I need to give when I feel like I don't have anything left to give, right? And that is, it's different. It really is different than what I was dealing with her. It was physically bad for me to be constantly going over there and having that kind of activity. It's too much for me. It just is. I can't interact with people a lot like that. It hurts my head to actually sit and have a conversation with somebody and look at them. It's a lot for me. Um, uh, Much less like being in a different home. It tends to make my eyes move around more and that kind of thing. I'm not making excuses. I swear. I'm actually just trying to explain that, because this idea of putting the common welfare of a fellowship first, it does not mean, in my opinion, that we put our own well-being at risk. And that's what I was thinking of this morning when we were reading this passage. I was being read to, because I have the privilege of not being able to read, so I need to be read to. And when I heard the reading say, we put our common welfare first, and we are each a small part of a great whole, I was thinking, I don't know that I agree with that, because if I'm always volunteering and giving, I may be ignoring some things that I need to prioritize in my own sobriety. Um, and the same thing happens with sometimes when I go to my vestibular support group. this is really a great example for me. When I go to the vestibular support group, number one, everybody's on video, and try to I try to be on video, but it just isn't good for me. So I tend to not be on video. Um, that's number one. So it appears as though maybe I'm not as present as other people in the group, but I very much am. I'm accommodating my participation. Sorry, my computer just did something, but you're still recording. I accommodate my participation with my abilities, with my symptoms, with my disability. And so I'm putting my well-being first above the group. And then another thing that happens in this vestibular support group is that um, marijuana is a solution, a treatment for many vestibular patients. It is, I don't know the specifics about it because I haven't looked it up, and maybe I'm better off if I do look it up just to fulfill my curiosity. But there are people on the meetings that show up that have smoked marijuana or taken edibles, whatever it is, and they're acting goofy. And that exposure to that in a way that it's an answer is not healthy for me. So that's one of the reasons, and I realized that today, that's one of the reasons why I have been not going, because there is a little bit of discomfort as far as like, I don't want to be exposed to people that think that marijuana is an answer because it's not an answer for me. Sobriety for me is not taking any mind altering drugs at all. That includes marijuana. It includes NyQuil. Like I can't take anything that has alcohol in it. I can't take anything that has addictive qualities to it. And I can't smoke marijuana or take mushrooms or anything like that. No mind altering drugs, because if I allow myself to do any single one of those, it is it's a slippery slope. And I don't want to think that that's the answer to any of my problems. So that's another example of putting my welfare first, my well-being first. So, with that being said, it is important to take care of the group. The unity that comes from everybody coming together for a common purpose and a common solution is priceless. When I go to my vestibular group, it isn't a common solution. I have a common purpose, but the solution is a little different than for a lot of people than my solution. For several people in there, it's a little different. There are folks that see a professional to talk about what they categorize as PTSD, that is affiliated with this invisible illness. I don't necessarily agree with that, categorizing it as that. There are, like I said, there's people who take edibles, and I don't agree with that. There's even a individual who is a recovering alcoholic who uses marijuana as a solution. That is great if that is helping him, and that allows him to be able to live joyfully in the way that he wants to live. It's not a solution for me. So, as much as I need to show up for myself, I think it's important that I show up for other people to show what my solution is, and that my solution does not include marijuana or edibles or any of these other things. Botox, like my solution doesn't include any of that. My solution is my sobriety program. And I want or should share that with other people. And that's one reason why I wanted to participate and volunteer for the Vestibular Disorders Association, VEDA, VEDA, because by doing my own research, I was able to run across an article with the exact symptoms that I have. Vision challenges associated with vestibular disorder. And although vestibular disorder is typically majorly correlated with your ears, like what's going on in your ears, the ear part of your vestibular system. Mine, I didn't think it was until I took the VNG test, and now they're telling me I have vestibular neuritis. We'll see about that. But having the run across an article like that, I'm really grateful to whoever volunteered and wrote that article. And I felt like I would be so lost still if I didn't run across that article. And it's important for me to step back and get out of my own self, get out of myself and figure out, how can I be of service? How can I give back to the common welfare, to the organization, so that somebody else that's sick and suffering out there might be able to find a solution? There may be a symptom that I experience that hasn't been articulated in a way that I could articulate it, that may resonate with another person who is suffering from this invisible illness. So that's why I volunteered to write articles. So they've already reached out to me, and I have a meeting scheduled with a man that is a part of VEDA who also had a stroke and has a vestibular disorder associated with his post-stroke symptoms. He's the only stroke survivor vestibular patient that I've met so far. And I got to talk to him soon after I read that article. And all of his help, just by his conversation on the phone with him and his wife, helped me enormously, helped me in my application for Social Security disability, helped me have some kind of confidence and hope that things are going to be all right if I just keep following, stay the course. So it's time that I give a little more back. What holds this organization together, and that this applies to sobriety, applies to vestibular support groups, it applies to stroke support groups. And it applies to anybody in recovery or any patient that is dealing with something that is life altering, some sort of cancer or illness like ALS. What holds us together and makes us feel a part of something and not alone on an island is being able to have the same um, common purpose and abide by the same principles. We all want to participate because we want to survive and we want to help as many other people survive from the same conditions that we are. Um, so it's interesting, really. The concept of the common welfare comes first, and each of us are a small part of a great whole because there's a balance, right? There's a balance there where we need to give, but we can't forget about ourselves because there's a point where we can be overwhelmed like I was with the my neighbor with cancer. I got to the point where I was overwhelmed and I needed to step back and be honest with myself. And although it felt icky, it felt icky for me to step back and be like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this for her. I need to do something for me. It didn't feel good. But as I stopped doing that and going and visiting with her, I started to be able to get back to my norm with my symptoms, and that part felt good. I don't feel like that I have ever felt regretful about standing up for my own recovery in that situation. I think the situation as a whole is just sad. It's just sad. Um, I want to give back even when I feel like I don't have anything to give. And if I really look at how this podcast started, how all of this uh, recovery out loud thing started, it was I was in a really dark place. I was really in a state of hopelessness, fear, and self-pity, all of it. I was feeling very vulnerable to depression and knew just from experience in my sobriety program that the only way that I can save myself is to recover out loud so that my pain is something we can all learn from. We can all grow from. We can all gain hope from. Um, and that's why I do this. And it's the most passionate I've ever been about anything in my life is this. Um, and that feels good. Even when I feel shitty, that feels good. I still have a headache because it's January 31st, and I will take my injection tomorrow and my Emgality injection, and then things will start feeling better in the next couple days. It's okay. Like even though things don't feel okay, that is like the importance of me nurturing my spiritual fitness, going to my meetings, um, getting to a state where I'm like, it's interesting. It's like when I start feeling really bad, I start my automatic reaction is to reach out. And that is not what I did my whole life. And when I was drinking, when I felt bad, I crawled inside of myself. And in my memoir, I'm talking about that right now. So chapter 1, that I'm going to be finishing the first draft today, which is exciting, right? That was part of my goal. Yay me. Um, I'm talking about invisible illnesses, and I'm trying to articulate exactly what depression feels like to me, what it feels like in my body, and what it feels like in my mind. And it is, I'm so experienced with it that it's been pretty fascinating to be able to write it down and then read it back. Like one of the just small phrases that I was massaging was, what is the feeling right in it's almost like at my sternum. What is that feeling that depression puts right there in the center of me? And um just 2 words around it. I have a whole paragraph around it, but the 2 words that really were powerful for me, that really articulated the feeling, is that it's a crushing gravity in the middle of my core. It's right in my center. And I actually have a lump in my throat articulating, like saying that out loud, because it is so emotionally draining and painful and collapsing, like that. I want to say it. I want to be able to say it and explain it so well that somebody else can say, I know exactly what that feels like. I know that feeling. And the reason why I'm so passionate and adamant that I find the words is because I know that I'm not unique. And I know that when I'm talking about that, and I'm even putting my fist in the spot where I feel it and pushing into that spot. And I think that's what's making this like lump rise up in my throat, because that is exactly something I haven't ever been able to articulate, is that feeling. I felt it for so long. And it's so important that I write this all down and publish it so that somebody else can read it and be like, I know, I know that collapsing, crushing gravity that makes you feel like you're just dying from the inside out. Like, I know what that feels like. And the fact that you have felt it too gives me hope that I can live. And that's why I do all of this, because I didn't feel like I was going to live. I didn't. I didn't feel like I was going to live. And I am. I'm living, and I'm not only living, I'm living joyfully. And I have hope, and I have enough to give. Even when on days I feel like I don't have anything to give, I hit record anyway, because somehow I'm able to give. When I open my mouth and I share my experience, I'm giving in ways that I don't even realize. And I'm grateful to be able to see that. And I'm just grateful to have this as a tool for myself to be able to heal and allow others, a community of us, to heal together. I couldn't be more grateful. So That's it. That's what I've got. Woo! So thanks for listening today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.